All right, this episode of Rec League Pros podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Hey, you jabronis want to start making a podcast. You want to be the next Joe Rogan. You want to be Alex Cooper from the Caller Daddy podcast. You want to be a David Letterman, Go to Anchor, all right? It's simple to use, it's free, and it gives you all the tools you need to start a podcast, whether you need music, sound effects, clips uploaded. You can edit right then and there. And on top of that, too, you can make money as well, which I'm doing right now. You can do ad reads with zero minimum listenership. It's kind of a win-win for everyone, right? You can get listener support as well, too, from all of your viewers. And, it's just a great platform to use. You want to distribute on Apple, Spotify, Google, millions of other platforms as well too for distribution that I'd never even heard of. I'm sure you can do it from their website. And did I mention it's free? Because it's free, all right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Anchor app or you're going to go to anchor.fm and get started making your own podcast today. Again, go to the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, start making your podcast, be a David Letterman with no shoes on, and start your podcast today. Roll the clip. All right, everybody, welcome back to Rec League Pros podcast. I want to thank everyone for viewing the first episode of Rec League Pros. If you haven't done so already, go check out that first episode with Jake LaBelle and Luke Tracy, two of my closest friends, two former alumni from Franklin Pierce University and New York Institute of Technology. Both had outstanding careers. You can get that on Spotify, on Google, on Apple, and many other platforms as well too. Go check out my link in the bio of Rec League Pros Instagram. If you haven't done so, follow that too. It's at Rec League Pros. And follow my Instagram too, because I also have the link at Lan_1996. Take a look at both of those. Check for updates. It's great. Now, my next guest, episode 2, and this is going to be on YouTube as well. It was a Zoom call with none other than Elaine Bachelder. If you don't know who Elaine Bachelder is, you should be ashamed of yourself. She had a outstanding field hockey career at Stonehill, transferred to Temple University for her junior and senior season. She's a monster on the field, man. She's an absolute monster, all right? And, she's gotten to play with some really, really high-level players in her span of her career. It's awesome. She has an older sister, Natalia, who went to Franklin Pierce University as well, too. Also a monster on the field, one of the best players. From what I saw in the last 6 or 7 years that was a part of that Franklin Pierce field hockey program, and Elaine, followed her footsteps and went to the NE10 at Stonehill, and then obviously, like I've said, she went to Temple University. It was a great podcast. I've known Elaine for a long time now as well too. She's an incredible human being. She just graduated with a degree, and she's navigating the stages of adulthood. It was a fantastic podcast. I had a pleasure interviewing her and talking to her on Zoom today, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for her. I think she's going to go on to do a lot of exciting and fantastic things. But again, go check out my Instagram at Atlanta_1996. Go check out her Instagram as well too. It'll be attached in the bio of all my podcast platforms, and on top of that too, make sure to listen to all previous and upcoming episodes. Check all of my social media for updates. I know I didn't get this podcast out in time for this week, but I'll have this one, and I will also have another one coming up as well too, so you're going to get 2 episodes for next week. So it's kind of a win-win. I'm trying to catch up. But without further ado, Elaine Bachelder, Rec League Pros episode 2. Let's start it up. I hit the
Okay.
record. All right, you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
nervous.
What do you mean you're nervous?
I don't know. I've never done this before.
You're telling me you've never been interviewed before? Ever?
I mean, not like this. I feel like this
No,
is.
not like this at all. Okay. So let's start off way at the beginning, right? So like South Berwick Elliott days. When did you start playing field hockey? That's probably the main question.
I started in 6th grade.
And was that through the town or do you have to do that separately? Because I don't think they started field hockey. I didn't think they started field hockey till middle school, right?
Yeah, so it usually started in 7th grade.
Yeah,
Like that was how it all started for all the sports. They
right,
only were like 7th and 8th grade. And I really wanted to do soccer.
right,
I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to wait another year, whatever. And then they needed people for the field hockey team because like there wasn't enough girls. So they were allowing like 6th graders to like try out and everything. And then like my sister had played and everything. So I was like, I guess I'll try it.
yeah, yeah. And your sister, so did your sister start in sixth grade too? Is that how that worked?
No, she started in I think 8th grade. She
Okay,
yeah.
so so that field hockey must have been that must have been a newer sport for the town then, because it's like, because
Yeah, with
yeah, because I remember because Andy started playing too in like sixth grade or so, and I want to say like the same thing was like with like lacrosse, because lacrosse wasn't like a thing until like I was like maybe 11 or so, like just before middle school. So I'm
yeah.
assuming that was probably the same kind of situation, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like a very popular sport in this
Mhm.
area. And
Right.
then like not too long after that, they started like the mini hawks. So then they started like helping younger kids kind of get into the sport and
R-
everything.
right. And then so you get your feet wet in it, you start playing, you're very good, like starting off the bat. I remember that. Um, and same with Natalia too. That like the interesting thing is like how like for you guys picking it up like so late compared to like what I would assume like everyone else did. You guys
Yeah.
picked it up pretty quickly. When did you like start taking it completely? This is going to be my sport, and I'm going to take this seriously, full on. Like probably high school.
Yeah, I think maybe it was junior year of high school because I wasn't even like planning on going to college originally. I wanted to do cosmetology school. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was getting a lot of like emails for like summer clinics and stuff for like colleges and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just was like, oh, I guess I'm like I could play in college. So then
I
I
you guess.
like I didn't realize that like, oh, I could probably play in college. And then at that time, like I had watched my sister play through college and everything. And then she was like, yeah, you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I, looked into schools and everything. And yeah.
So, did you start playing varsity in high school right as a freshman, or did you have to go? Was it like your sophomore year? Was your freshman year, right?
Freshman year, yeah.
Okay. So, and Lisa was it? It's Trunsdale's her last name. It's
Truesdale.
Lindsay. Yeah, Lindsay's mom. It's been so long since I'm like trying to remember names off the top of my head. But what was she like as a coach? Because like I know like she's like a household name in the Seacoast for field hockey. Because I know she like had a really good coaching career at Portsmouth. Obviously, with like Marshwood, she had a lot of really good teams. I know like when I was a freshman, I think Natalia was a senior at the time, and they made it all the way to the state championship game, and I think they lost to
Mhm.
Skowhegan.
Vegan, yeah.
And then I mean you had some pretty deep playoff runs with like some of the girls I graduated with. So what was she like as a coach? Was she very knowledgeable and like helped you develop your game a lot? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved her as a coach.
Hmm.
It was really sad to like hear that after my year she ended up retiring.
Right.
But then I was like just glad that she stayed for all my 4 years and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was just so like so focused on the game, and like you could tell she appreciated it so much, and she just wanted people to feel the same way.
Yeah, and it's crazy too because I mean, there's a lot of I mean, she just in like the 4 years I was there, probably the 4 years you were there too. I mean, there are a lot of good players that ended up getting developed through that program. As you, Natalia, I think Emily Kaler played for a little bit in college. I know Carissa Bosch played at St. Joe's.
Yeah.
Leah Glidden, I think, uh, is playing for Merrimack right now, or
Yeah,
UNH.
she transferred to UNH.
UNH, gotcha. So it's like there's a lot of good players that have been coming through that program, and I think they're still coming through too, considering she's gone. I know the new coach that's there. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but I know I read an article on her and I think the Portsmouth head coach. They both played for Lisa at Portsmouth like way back in the day. So it's
Yeah,
like kind of that same like coaching tree.
I think it's Amato. Is it Amato still?
It might be, yeah. I don't. I'm not entirely positive, but
Yeah, because when she was, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, when Natalia played, she was the assistant coach too, like with
mhm,
Lisa.
yeah.
So she always liked her.
Hmm. So what was it like watching Natalia play? Like what did that give you some extra motivation too? Because um, I mean she went to Franklin Pierce with me. She had a pretty good career at Pierce, and then I mean high school she was very good too. Does that
Mhm.
like motivate you a little bit too to like get better at field hockey, or is it just like it's cool, but I'm just gonna play just to play?
Yeah, I mean, not in like a competitive way or anything,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was definitely motivation to like, especially when I started out, I went to Stonehill,
Hmm.
which was in the same conference as Franklin Pierce. And so it was just kind of like fun, like as a rival in a way, like
Yeah.
that I got to go there. But no, I always like she's always like the best player, like in my eyes, like, and she's like the one who introduced me to the game anyway.
Hmm. And I'm gonna get into Stonehill in a second, but what was like in terms of like college recruiting stuff? Obviously, you went to Stonehill, but what were the other schools you were looking at? I'm curious about that part.
I only was looking at two schools, which were Stonehill and Merrimack.
In Merrimack, okay. So what made you choose Stonehill over Merrimack?
So I met with like each coach by myself, and
Hmm.
at Stonehill, she just felt more like personable, and I don't know, like the Merrimack one, like I understand that like the coaching is like their job and everything, but it's nice when you're not just looked at as like a random player. Like the
Hmm.
coach also looks at you as a person, and I felt like that's how it felt at Stonehill, and at Merrimack it was more just like for to help them do their job. I don't know, like it was just felt more comfortable at Stonehill.
That's not like I mean that's understandable though.
Yeah.
I think the main thing too, and this is coming from like a very washed up athlete, that walked on, but like I think like the like finding a coach that like feels like you're wanted is huge because
Yeah,
I'm a lot of coaches just say stuff but don't like follow through with it.
right.
When you have a coach that's like kind of blunt and straightforward with you, I think that speaks volumes because it shows honesty, and I think at the same time too it helps a lot. But you know purple, that purple color in college wasn't really a good look for you. That's all right, but um but I mean you guys were, I mean Stonehill was incredible for sports in general, though I wish we were as good for the majority of the sports we had. But um, so you went to Stonehill for 2 years.
2 years. Yep.
So how were those 2 years? Did you enjoy it? Was it tough starting out? What was it like?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, like, field hockey wise.
Hmm.
Everything else for me was just kind of a mess. Like, academically, I wasn't finding, like, what I was good at. Like, I was really struggling, like, academic wise, and I don't know, there was just so much going on. I felt like as just a freshman and a sophomore that I didn't need to be dealing with that.
Yeah. I I mean, yeah, I think that's another tough thing too, is like, getting acclimated with like school, which college and high school are night and day,
So
like
different.
workload wise. Especially I think for Stonehill, like that's a tough academic school too.
Yeah,
So it's not like hey, like I can just cruise by,
no.
a couple assignments. No, like you need to be studying and you need to like be doing your work, especially for being an athlete too, you know, who needs to have time management. That must have been very tough.
Yeah, and I think I made like the mistake of kind of putting field hockey before academics when it was
Right.
like looking at which school I wanted to go to. Like I
Hmm.
kind of just was like, oh, I'll pick the school for field hockey and then I'll figure out what I want to do.
Hmm.
And then that kind of like I didn't enjoy anything I was doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was like the farthest you got, um like career wise there for Stonehill? I mean, you guys played in like the conference tournaments, but you guys play in the NCAA tournament too?
We made it to one round of
Hmm.
NCAA tournament, and I remember because we got like the badges. You get like a little like goodie bag when you get to,
Yeah.
but we played a school in PA, which was actually yeah, it was when I visited Philadelphia for the first time that we went to do
Yeah.
the school. So yeah.
Which Philly's a cool city. I remember I had my freshman year, we had we had like an intercollegiate tennis tournament there. They have like a huge tennis center right in Philly, and it was
Mhm.
hosted by a couple schools there. And it was like, Philly's really cool. I wish I had gotten to experience it a little more. But it's phenomenal there. It's super cool, and the food is very good, very good. If you like Philly cheesesteaks, man, that's where it's at. Um, so your sophomore year's over. Your coach for Stonehill gets the job at Temple. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong anyway through this. And then you go to Temple. How did that transpire? Because I remember this is like way, way back too. Um, I remember Andy had mentioned something to me about like you going to Temple, and I remember I like talked to you or something at one point, and you were just like you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to Temple. Like my coach is going there. So she like as soon as she got the job, she recruit you or something, or was that even a thought at the time?
No, no. She left in the fall, like shortly after our season ended.
Hmm.
She like called a meeting with us, and it was so like random. Like we had no idea she was even looking at others. I don't know. It was just like caught us off guard. She left, our assistant coach left, and we were just like, what?
Hmm.
But then in the spring, um, we had a new coach come in and she was really great. Like I had known her since I was little because when I would go to a camp, she was actually one of like my coaches at the camp. So I've known her for a while.
Hmm.
And um, I stuck it out through the spring and everything. But I think like like and Sue's my coach, she always like kept in touch with me and everything. And I just like wasn't happy like at Stonehill. And
Hmm.
I think I always wanted to transfer anyway, and I think I would have ended up transferring anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere.
anywhere. And then the idea, like, I got in the transfer portal at the end of the spring, and I told Suze, and she kind of like she didn't offer me. She just said like, you can come here if you want. And I thought she was like kidding, like just being like nice. And
Yeah.
then she was like, no, you can like play, like you could play. And I was like, really? Like, I don't know, that
Well, I
level.
mean, she wouldn't say
I
that
know.
otherwise, right?
So I don't know. I thought a lot about it, and I was like, I've never really been there besides that one time where all we did was like kind of just walk through and everything. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, like with academics, like all this stuff, like, and I only had a short amount of time to kind of figure it out because like they start really early in the
Right.
summer. And so yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
And then what after that? Like because I think that was you. I mean, you must have had to tell your entire team too, right? And I
Yeah,
heard that was kind of tough.
that was a little tough. Yeah, I expected a different response
Right.
than what I received, but I mean, I guess I could understand from their viewpoint, like it's because like they probably were a little upset because it was with our old coach, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a little rough going into the preseason for Temple because I felt like I didn't know anyone there,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any of my friends from home, like for Stonehill. So like I didn't really like have anyone. I felt like at that point, besides my parents, who were very supportive throughout the whole like decision process and everything.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend that I went to Pierce with. She played field hockey too. I'm not going to say the name because it was kind of she had a traumatizing experience too, where she ended up transferring for her senior year out of Pierce and went to another school, and it was very similar to the situation you had, where it wasn't taken very well, and that's like a very difficult thing in a lot of ways when you know that's like your close group of friends that you made right off the bat, and you're kind of doing something in a sense that's like gonna not just help you in your athletic career, but it's also probably too, from what it sounds like, it was probably to help you mentally as well too, because you weren't happy at Stonehill. You were going through things and you thought this was the best decision for you. And I think that's like the tough part of growing up, is you have to like understand like people's feelings and not
Yeah.
everyone's going to take it well.
Yeah.
But I remember that happening as well too. And I know I had a friend that went through the same thing, which is tough. So I definitely feel for you on that part. But so that first season at Temple, what was that like? That must have been night and day.
Yeah, it was a complete like change with like everything, like people, like the culture, everything, the game. It
Hmm.
was something like when I first started in preseason, I had not prepared myself at all
Yeah.
for what it was going to be like, and it was very difficult. I mean, the surface that you play on is
Hmm.
different than what I was playing on at Stonehill, which makes the game 10 times faster, which means you have to be 10 times faster.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It was like when I remember it was like the second week, and I was like, why did I do this? Like, why am I here? I was like, I felt so like much lower than everyone. But then I just like it took a lot of extra time out of like my schedule. Like after practice, I would stay after and have to run more, like just stuff like that. Like so I could get up to like the level as everyone else. Cause I mean, like the skills were there. It was just like my fitness at that point.
Hmm. So what were they playing on? Were they playing on turf or was it like an
Like
artificial?
it's AstroTurf, so it's like
Hmm.
water based. So it's
Oh, wow. So that's real. Okay, that's real fast then. So what were you playing on at Stonehill? Was that wasn't a turf field you guys were playing on?
it was like field turf, so it's
Okay,
thicker.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So it looks like, okay, I see what you're
Basically
saying
like
now.
carpet and real grass. Like that's the difference. Like so much faster.
Right. So what was your schedule like then for Temple? So that must have been a different change too, because I know the way I see it with like college athletics, right? So you have D1 sports, which is like, I mean, like you're going there for school, but a lot of your priority is like the
Yeah.
sport you're playing, which is field hockey. You have Division 2, which is kind of, I would say, a 50-50, where it's like, you have to put 50% of your effort towards your sport and 50% towards academics because you're traveling, you got to practice, but you also need to be at class. And then you have Division 3, which to me is like kind of like majority classwork and then athletics. So what was the schedule looking like for you? Did you have to do summer school while you were up there? Or what was your class schedule like?
Um, I had to take 6 classes every semester because I was behind on like what didn't transfer over from Stonehill.
Gotcha.
So I was kind of busy with everything,
Hmm.
but it was really nice though at the same time because I was actually enjoying what I was doing,
Hmm.
which made a huge difference. And I got all my like gen eds pretty much out of the way at Stonehill
Hmm.
for the most part. So it was basically just all like advertising courses. But
Gotcha.
for field hockey in my junior year, when we had season in the fall, it was like 4 hours in the morning. You have like a certain amount of hours you can get in the week, like they're not allowed to go over.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we would do in the morning and then classes in the afternoon and at night.
Gotcha.
So it was like pretty set schedule, which made it so much easier because, nothing collided with each other.
Right.
And we also had our advisor who was very helpful, and she, would make sure you were doing this and this and this.
Yeah.
And if she saw anything that wasn't turned in, she'd text you right away and be like, where is this? So
Gotcha.
someone to like keep you on your toes, but at the same time, that's what you need when you're like at that level.
Hmm.
Making sure
What?
you're not getting behind or anything.
Yeah, well, that's good that you actually had like an advisor that cares.
Yeah.
I've had my like I had one advisor in college that like cared about my schedule, but not really. And then I had like my first advisor I ever had. It was just like he's like, "Who are you again?" It was like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." But
Yeah.
that's super helpful then.
Yeah, each team like got their own
Hmm.
advisor, and it was so different because at Stonehill, like I would go to advisors for help,
Hmm.
and like you said, it was like they didn't even like remember you, or
Yeah.
like they had how many other students to worry about. Like it wasn't made just for me. So yeah, that's what was nice about it.
Well, I think what's also nice too, right, is Temple's a big school as well. So the fact that they have someone that's prioritizing you is s- like goes above and beyond helping you out, like
Yeah.
for me, like going to a small school, you think you think it would be the exact
Right.
opposite, right? No, that's not how it worked. It's that Temple money, right? It's not, you know what Franklin Pierce is like. But that's cool though. So what was it? So what was the first like full because you guys played a full fall season, and then what would your off season look like? Did you practice more or less?
So we would start up like we would only get 2 weeks off after season ended,
Hmm.
and then we would start in 8-hour weeks, which was only like conditioning and lifting in the mornings. So those were like the early mornings, and then you would come back and you would have 2 weeks. You would come back from winter break, have 2 weeks of just 8 hours, and then you'd bump up to 12 hours, which was we'd do like an hour of conditioning and then an hour of field hockey.
Gotcha.
And then I didn't really get to see what a full spring season looked like because right when we
Right.
bumped up to our 20-hour weeks and we got to go on the field, we only got like a week of that. And
Hmm.
then,
Right, which is what I was going to get into next.
yeah,
COVID hits right into your spring year. What was that like? Because that must have been like your head must have been going like a million miles an
yeah,
hour.
we were all like, what is COVID?
Yeah.
And why are we all leaving? Yeah, it was crazy. I remember because we didn't really like we heard COVID and we were just like, yeah,
Hmm.
COVID. But it wasn't until someone, I don't even remember what team it was on, but they got it and they were in the weight room and we were on the field at that time, and then our trainer was like, everyone needs to get inside, everyone needs to get inside. So we were all like sitting in the locker room, and then our coach was saying to us like, COVID is real, like we need to
Yeah.
be careful. And then we were going to be put on a pause. So we were going to be put on a 2-week pause, and she was like, you can go home, but we're going to be back in 2 weeks.
And
And
that
I
two
don't know.
weeks turned
So
into
like
2 months.
2 weeks
Yeah.
turned into months, and that turned into the fall.
Yeah, which I I was surprised about that, especially. I mean, I know like numbers wise, it was like it went down in the summertime and then it rose
Yeah.
back up in the fall. But for at least like college athletics on the D1 level, I would have expected like them to try and figure something out in a sense, because like doing like no spectators and then doing testing and stuff like that, because like like the schools have the funds to me, and so on, and it's like it's kind of sad too, because it's like for you is your senior year, last year you're probably ever going to play field hockey at that type of competitive level possibly, and it's kind of being taken away. And I get it, it's like a health, it's protocol and stuff like that, but at least to try and figure something out. I wish they had done that. They did it for football. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I understand that like
Right.
football and basketball and the big ones
Hmm.
make the most money and everything.
Hmm.
So yeah, they were able to kind of have a normal season. But yeah, would have been nice.
Yeah. But you played in the spring though, right?
Yeah, we got to have a like shortened season in the spring where played we played 6 teams, and 4 of the teams we played 4 times. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
So
not a whole lot of traveling then, right?
no. Which was, I guess, good. I think the furthest we went was Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. So was that different at all too? Did you guys have it could like could your parents go to those or no?
There were some that were allowing spectators, but my parents, I mean, everything was so much farther from them than
Right.
like Stonehill. Even my junior year, like my dad came down as much as he could, but because we have like the dogs and stuff, it was hard to
Right.
find time to watch them for
And
like an overnight trip or
yeah,
something.
you guys were going through like house renovations and stuff like that
Yeah.
too. It was like you guys were super busy. I remember driving past your house a couple times, because Jake lives, like 5 minutes away. And I'm just like, what are they doing? It's like adding a whole other story to the house. It's really very interesting. But that must have been like tough for your mom though, huh? Because your mom was like, talk about super fans. Your mom is like the biggest super fan for you and your sister. I remember um she found out when I was in school going to Pierce that I was doing like, she found out I was doing like in like broadcasts and stuff like that. She's like, oh, you got to do their field hockey broadcast. The people that are on there don't know what they're talking about. It's like, well, I don't know if I'd be the right person for that either. But yeah, that must have been tough for your mom though.
Yeah, especially like during COVID and everything, because I ended up going back in the summer for training. We did like
Mhm.
early training. Um, so yeah, it was like months before I got to see her, just because it's kind of, you don't want to risk anything, especially with, I don't know who I'm around and everything like that. So yeah,
Mhm.
but besides that, games and everything, it was definitely hard. But they had like the live stream and everything, so we got to watch. But
No, I'm sure they're definitely watching every game down to a T. Um, so talk me through your last spring game ever. Definitely probably wasn't your last, or not spring game, your last game ever collegiately. Probably wasn't what you thought it was going to be like, but what was going through your head as soon as that last game hit?
um, wait, I have to remember. I think, what was our? Yeah, I think it was our senior game that it was my last game.
Hmm.
And my senior year, I didn't even like play. Like my junior year, I played. My senior year, I never really played. Um, and so for me, it was kind of, I don't know, it didn't hit me as hard as it did until like a week after. And then I wasn't going to practice or anything. And it just felt so weird, like that I was done. And like I lived with a lot of like sophomores and stuff. So they were still like getting ready and everything. And I
Hmm.
was like, I'm not doing anything. Like this feels so weird.
Yeah, yeah. I I asked that question because I feel like it's so like that's the one main trait of everyone feeling that way as soon as like their last game hits. I remember talking to Jake about it because his last college game he played in the College World Series, and he was just like, "This is it. Like, I'm like, this is like super. Like, I'm not going back to school." It was a little different for him because his baseball's a spring sport, so it wasn't like he was back at school or anything. He was like, I'm done. I'm probably never gonna go back to New York like as often as I
Hmm.
was or live there. And this is probably like the highlight of my career. So, but
Yeah, you think about like the little things like, wow, I'm not ever going to wear this uniform again, or like
right.
play on the same field as these people again, or like
Hmm.
on that field ever. Like, yeah, it's just weird feeling.
So, what was the chemistry like between the teammates you had at at Temple? Did you get a pretty good bond with them right off the bat, you think? So
Yeah,
that.
it was crazy at first because like I didn't know a single one of them.
Hmm.
And I even like moved into, another girl ended up transferring from UConn to Temple, and that's who I lived with my junior year. We
Hmm.
lived in an apartment. Like I think to myself, I'm like, wow, I moved into an apartment like off campus with like someone I didn't even know. Like
Hmm.
it's just so weird. But yeah, I have made like really great friendships there, and yeah, so much better.
Yeah, and I mean Philly's like Philly to because we're Stonehill's like kind of close to the Cape, right? In a
Yeah,
way,
it's in Easton, Mass.
Mass.
So
So night and day in terms of like where you're living, because there's a lot more to do in Philly than there is in Easton, Mass.
Yeah, for sure. And I the best part is that it's all like walking distance. Like
Mhm,
the campus was right in the city. Like it was cool. Yeah, it was
mhm.
really good 2 years.
All right, so what were the spots then? Where'd you like going the most while you're out there?
The best place is the Terminal Market, Reading Terminal Market. It has like everything. And they have this place called Baylor's Donuts, and they're
Okay.
so good.
All right. So is it close to the Holy Donut that's in Maine? Have you ever had Holy Donut
Yeah,
in
I've
like
had a
Philly?
whole donut.
So compare the two. Which one's the better one?
Well,
Give an honest opinion. It's hey, you're not going to offend me.
no, I like the Holy Donut too. But the ones that I like at Baylor's, they have like M&Ms on them.
Oh,
I've
okay.
never seen a Holy Donut with M&Ms on
Okay. So you like the fancy stuff.
them.
Gotcha. All right. So what? So the what was it called? The market.
The Reading Terminal Market.
So what? So is that basically kind of like a Faneuil Hall in Boston?
Yeah, it was like an old train station that they made into like, yeah, it looks just like that kind of. It's huge though, like way bigger than that one, but
Okay, gotcha. So all right, that does sound like a cool little spot. All right, and then so so what was it? So you went back. So when COVID hit, you went back in June, right?
Mhm.
Um, was it just like completely dead?
Yeah, it was. I didn't even end up going home
Oh, you
until
didn't end up. Oh,
no,
okay,
I stayed because we thought we were going to be back in 2 weeks.
gotcha.
So I ended up staying those 2 weeks because I was like, it's kind of pointless of me to go home. I don't know, it
Mm,
just felt like too short of a time.
right.
And I was like, I'll just wait the 2 weeks out here. So it was just me and my roommate. And it was insane. Like we would go walk to the grocery store and like no papered goods, no flour, like no nothing. And I was like, what is going on? Like this is weird.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was just dead. And then when I came back in the summer though, things weren't as dead, but
Right.
the masks and everything, like everything was so strict. If you weren't like walking outside with a mask, like stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of like the same in like Portland too, where it was like at least like that area. If you went up more north, it was totally different story. They live completely differently. But I know like for me, it's like I remember because like I would like my situation with COVID was very different. I got a new job. I was house hunting, and then on top of that too, I was doing this all through a pandemic, and I was seeing the beginning stages of it in like the grocery stores where it was. I remember like the first week of it, just like everyone was buying toilet paper and like soap and like whatever they could get for like sterilizing their entire bodies if they could, right? And I was just like, what the heck is going on? It's like, oh, it's that coronavirus thing. It's like, what is that? It's like I've never like this isn't a thing, and then it blew up completely, and I was obviously wrong. Um, but yeah, I remember when I actually moved to Westbrook and like started looking at Portland and stuff like that, and like the old port especially, it was like night. It was like night and day to what it is now because the mask mandate's done and everything's fully open.
Mhm.
But it was people walking around with masks or not. But when you went into like or near a bar or a restaurant, you had to have it going in, and then as soon as you sat down, you take it off. And then like obviously you got to go into grocery stores and stuff like that now
Yeah.
too. But now it's like I like now that the mask mandate's done in Maine, it's like
It's so nice.
so it's nice, but it's very weird.
No,
Uh,
I know.
but so first of all, I want to congratulate you because you are now a graduate. How does that feel? Has that sunk in yet?
No.
No?
I think in the fall it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm not
know.
in
Yeah.
class anymore. Thank goodness.
Yeah. It usually does sink in when everyone's going back and you're like, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
I know that was like that's what happened to me where it was like all my all my friends that were like a year younger and like old teammates that I had, like
Mhm.
they're getting ready to move back in and you're just like, oh, I'm not a kid anymore. This is weird. But what was your graduation like? So did you because I think I remember I sent something to you and it was like, oh hey, congratulations. And I had asked like, do did were people able to attend and so on. So your parents were there, but they weren't like near the area, right?
Um, yeah, it was on a turf field.
Right.
Um, and but the turf field was all fenced in,
Mhm.
but they got to stand outside, like on the fence. So I think they got to see like some of it. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, it was good that we even got to have like a ceremony.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy they did something because I
Yeah,
think all schools kind of missed the eight ball
I
in,
know.
in regards to just like that class like graduating. They didn't really give them a proper send off, and I hope they do something in the future. Um, but it's not going to be the same, you know.
Mhm.
Like I remember what it was like for me graduating, and I'm very lucky where it was like I was the last year before that happened.
Yeah.
And I remember how cool that was to like see everyone.
Mhm.
You walk across the stage, you get your degree, and then you get to celebrate with your family and friends, and that's kind of like your final goodbye. And that's like not that never happened for them. And it kind of like in a sense like I feel bad for you because it like you got something, but it wasn't like again probably what you had envisioned, right? Because it's you're not expecting like, oh hey, the person that's sitting next to me is 10 feet away from me.
Yeah.
Like that must like to me that's like, oh, okay, that's this is a little weird. So they have to break it off into like a couple days.
Yeah, but they did like I'm sure that's how they always do it, like by school.
Hmm.
And so they did it on Friday or Thursday and Friday.
Yeah,
I think they had one school go on Saturday. But yeah,
gotcha.
we would all like someone was on this turf field and then at the same time this other school was graduating. They got to use the basketball center. So
Okay,
like, we were going at the same time, but like in just different places.
gotcha. Okay, so back on the field hockey topics. I asked this to because my first guests I had on were Jake, and then I had my roommate who is now going to be moving out soon, Luke. I asked them bet their three to five best players they've ever played with in their entire career, high school, college, pee wee, whatever it may be. Who were the 3 to 5? Like you can just name. We'll just do three because
Okay.
five's tough. Your 3 best players you've ever played with in your entire career. So you had, I mean, high school wise, you've had some good players you've played with. I know, like college, you definitely have had some good people. I'm interested to hear this.
Let's see. In high school, I'll pick one from each school.
Okay,
That'll be
okay,
easy. So in high school, I would say, yeah, playing with Hannah Costin. She was just a really great player, and everything to her like came so effortlessly.
I'm not surprised you said that one. I thought you were going to say that. Okay.
Yeah, it was so natural. So I wish she would still play, but
Hmm.
my Stonehill one would be Casey Smith.
Okay.
I've never,
I've heard the name, and I heard she's actually very good.
she was insane. And
Yeah.
I just have never seen someone like make goals from like the angles she would shoot at. And she would just like, well, I don't know. It was just like she wouldn't even try. And I'm like, how? Yeah, she was great. And not only that, but she was just a really nice person too, like outside of field hockey.
Hmm.
But Temple, that's a really tough one for me. Uh,
You got it.
there's a lot of good ones. I think Christina Caratanudo, she was our goalie. She was amazing. Like, yeah, and she ended up being an All-American this year, which was her senior year.
Okay,
So
because so
yeah,
that
and it was
the
nice because Temple was finally getting like they weren't that great before, and then we were finally getting like recognized as a good team.
hmm
And thanks to her too for a lot of the things that she
hmm
would save insanely. So
hmm You
her,
think
and I
that's
would say also Kat Edgar, when I was coming in, she was a senior.
was this for Temple?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's from Ireland. And
Oh.
she was so like she just worked really hard.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that
Okay,
was
so you had some people from overseas that were on your team. So what was that like then? Because I had, so when I was a sophomore, so I probably had a total of 5 or so teammates that were from overseas. I had one from Israel. I had a teammate from Mallorca, which is a small island off the coast of Spain. I had a teammate from Trinidad and Tobago, and then I had a teammate from Quebec. I had one more that I'm like blanking on, but what would
this is a very, because at my school there was only one American on the tennis team, which was like, yeah, it must just be a very I don't know, diverse
well
sport.
well it's I I mean, talent wise, they were way better than I was. I'll say that. I was watching a lot from the sideline, but it was different. So what was it? What was it like talking to her and hanging out with her?
I mean, it was, I don't know, I love them all. Like
Yeah,
they just had like they're so different in a good way. Like they don't really care what people think about them,
right,
like they just kind of do their own thing.
right.
And they're just, I don't know, I became really good friends. um One of my friends, Veronica, she came from the Czech Republic, and she came in the spring, then had to go home because COVID. And then she came back in the fall, and then so I didn't get like that much time with her, which was so unfortunate, but she was amazing. And like they're all, it's like kind of a love and hate because they're all so good that you're like, oh my gosh, they're getting on my nerves because they're so good. But I mean, yeah.
Well, that was the harsh reality for me too. It was like, I mean, for me, because I started off playing tennis in high school, so I was years behind everyone else that was on my team. Even like the actual Americans that were on our team was
Mhm.
well behind. And I just had to sit in a reality where it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the bench mob. I'm gonna be obnoxious and say stupid crap and see where it goes. And but I think the cool thing about having a teammate that is not from the States is it gives you a different perspective on life too.
Yeah.
So the teammate I had from Israel, his name's Yuval Barak. Like I always pictured Israel as being like this very dangerous place to live. It's chaotic. There's a lot of things going on. And I had a conversation with him about it. And he's just like, honestly, it's not really as bad as it's perceived to be. The media sets an agenda
Hmm.
and they portray Israel as like being like this place that is like in total shambles all the time. When in reality, it's like, it's really not as bad as it seems to be. It's just certain parts. And it's like, and I
Right.
guess you could say the same thing about the States too, where it's like, for me, it's like, there's certain parts of like Boston I wouldn't want to go heading around, or like Chicago, or even probably like Philly
For
too. There's
Philly,
probably,
yeah.
yeah, there's probably places you were like, I'm probably gonna take a left here instead of
Yeah.
keeping going this way. But I always found that very interesting, and getting someone's perspective that has had a teammate that is, um, from a different part of the world.
Yeah. No,
But
I agree. Like I said, like they always like just walk around like they have such a different, like they're just so much happier for some reason. I just always found that like they don't, like I said, they don't care what people think about them because like
right,
they're already from a completely different country. Like they just want to get to know America, I guess.
yeah, and they're super appreciative of like
Mhm.
what they have too, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Um, so what at this point now, so you kind of mentioned like Temple's kind of like on the rise now for field hockey.
Mhm.
um what did so you think in the next year or two they're probably going to be in conversations as like one of the better teams in their conference, you think?
Yeah, sure.
And is that yeah, sure.
Yeah, I
That
know,
didn't
I
sound
know
very confident at all.
for sure. I think like they're smart, like the group of girls that are in the staff. I mean, it's Sue's head coach, and then two ex-Olympians are the assistant coaches, and then whoever they bring on as a volunteer assistant. I don't know if they're going to do that, but they know exactly who to recruit, what they need. I mean, what we were doing, like what we were training for, like showed in the games, and it only got better every time. And then even from the jump from my junior year to my senior year, like it was just so much better.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's going to be really exciting to see where they end up even next year. I really, yeah.
Hmm. And that's like the cool thing about probably a coach that you've kind of seen for 4 years, where you saw what she was doing at Stonehill, and you're seeing what she's going to probably do this program too if she decides I want to stick around for a long-term period rather than a short term.
Yeah.
Which I think, which that'll be interesting to see. It sounds like, from what I've heard about Sue's from like you, like now, and what I've read in the past, like she's kind of like she dominated the NU10 for a while, uh, at least her time there. And if somehow translates that to Temple, that's going to be scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also what the difference is like at Stonehill, everyone was so used to winning all the time.
Hmm.
And at Temple, they never, like the year I got there, their past season, they only won like 2 out of 16 games or something. And so it's like they like try so hard and like they want to win so bad that it's just like the difference in like the want is so cool compared to like what, not like saying, not like bashing Stonehill in any way or anything, but I'm just saying like you can see how bad they want to win, and like it just like is showing.
Hmm. And like that's the thing about like, um a team that's been so successful. So it's like for me, and I'm not gonna bash our baseball, like the Pierce's baseball team, but they were always one of the better teams in the country, Division II wise. They always had the best players and so on. And they kind of like fell off when the coach that was there when I was a freshman left. And I think he's like somewhere, I think he went to like Dayton or something. And now they have another coach, and they're still good, but they're not the same as they used to be. And I think that's like the comfortability of like, oh, well, we're always going to be good, but
Yeah.
they're not, they could be better, but they're not like, they don't have the mentality of like, oh, like I'm going to want it more than everyone. And I think that's the nice thing about teams that are on like the rise
Yeah.
is they want to put in the effort to get there. And I feel like when they get a taste of it too, they're going to appreciate it more, and they're going to keep a mentality of like, we knew what it took to get here. And for the people that are coming on, they need to understand that and keep that type of mentality from here on out. Because that's, if you have people like that that are just like so used to winning, where it's like, oh, we're just going to stampede through people, it almost always doesn't work out in the long run at the end for those programs, in my opinion, at least. So my last question to you, and then I'll let you go. So graduated, you got your degree now, your collegiate career's over. What's next for you? What are we thinking here, career wise, field hockey, like even field hockey wise too? Do you have any aspirations to like coaching or
No.
no, not at all?
No, I've been playing like adult league pickup with my sister, so I get to play with her. But for me now, it's just kind of for fun. Like,
Yeah.
I spent so much like mental strength these past 4 years, and like it just really, it takes a lot out of you and you don't even realize it. And like I need to rest for a little, but I don't know, maybe, but I don't see myself being a coach.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. So what about career wise then? I know you had talked about like, oh, I kind of want to go back to Philly. Is that still on the table for you? Or are you like, I kind of want to stay here now?
No, I would love to go back to Philly. I loved it there, and I felt like I didn't get enough time there.
Right.
And I feel like this is the age to kind of do it, like live in a city. But it just depends on, how the interview process is so long and it's just really, so just waiting to hear back from places and everything.
Very long and very difficult.
Yeah. So wherever I end up, I'll be fine. But
do you know what you want to do for a job or have an idea?
I want to work in like marketing or advertising agency. So I graduated with a media planning track in advertising, which is like the money side of advertising, so like financials and budgeting and all that. But that's my mom.
Oh, she could have said hi.
She probably was nervous.
I don't bite. She knows me. She knows me.
Okay. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying.
You were talking about, I think your degree and then what you wanted to do for a job.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm not closing anything off.
Gotcha. Keeping the options open.
Anything that will get me into a marketing agency, I will take.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to Elaine and I. And if you guys want to listen, watch, I will have this on YouTube. This will be the first episode that's going to be on YouTube. So you're actually going to see a video version of this. And this will be available on Apple, on Spotify, Google, Anchor FM, and so on. I thank you guys for listening. Elaine, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm sorry this was a hassle for you. But
That was great.
cool. But again, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone listening.